You may never believe betrayal could come from an immediate family member, but that is exactly my story, because under my own roof crazy things were happening that made my blood pressure high. The first time I saw it, my eyes went blur, my hands went numb. I went on a business trip. I was sitting alone in a quiet hotel room in Abuja, my laptop open on the small desk, when a notification popped up on my screen. Living room camera, motion detected. That was normal. The house in Lekki always had movement, staff, the children, Kendra. But then another alert followed almost immediately. Master bedroom hallway, motion detected. I clicked without thinking. The camera feed loaded slowly. My heart beat louder with every second. The hallway light was on, the picture sharpened, and then I saw a figure I never expected to see there. My younger brother, Oliver. He stood outside my bedroom door, looking left and right like a thief. Then he knocked softly. The door opened, and my wife pulled him inside. The screen was still for a second, or maybe my mind was. I stared at the laptop, my mouth open, my chest tight. I could not breathe. My fingers shook so badly that the mouse slipped from my hand. The feed went black. That was the moment my life split into two. But the truth is, this did not start that night. It started months earlier. My name is Daniel Hartwell. I am a tech entrepreneur. Some people like to call me a billionaire. I do not use that word often, but yes, I built a software company from nothing, and today it runs across Africa and beyond. I travel a lot. Meetings, investors, product launches. That is the life I chose. I live in Lagos with my wife, Kendra, and our two children, Kate and Kirian. Kate is 8, Kirian is 5. They are my world. Kendra and I had what people call a good marriage. She is beautiful in a calm way, not loud, soft voice, always neat. She met me when I was still building my company, when my office was a small rented space in Yaba. We grew together, or so I thought. Oliver is my younger brother. We grew up in Surulere. Our parents are late. After university, when my business began to grow, I brought Oliver close. I paid his rent, gave him a job in my company, treated him like a son and a brother at the same time. He was family. My own blood. That is why the image on that camera felt unreal. But before that night in Abuja, there were signs, small ones, the kind you ignore when you trust too much. It started with my travel schedule. In January, my company began expanding into East Africa. That meant more time away from Lagos. Sometimes 3 days, sometimes a full week. At first, Kendra handled it well. "Go and build your empire," she would say with a smile. "We will be fine." I believed her, but slowly things began to change. She started calling less. When I called at night, she would say she was tired or already in bed. The video calls reduced. When I came home, she looked fine, but something felt off, like a wall I could not see. Oliver, on the other hand, became more present. Too present. He started coming around the house often. At first, it made sense. He said he wanted to help Kendra when I was away, help with school runs, fix small things in the house. "You know Lagos traffic," he once said. "At least let me be around." I thanked him. I even praised him. I was proud of the bond I thought we all shared. But then the jokes started. One evening, I returned from a trip earlier than planned. I walked into the living room and saw Oliver sitting close to Kendra on the couch, too close. They were laughing. When they saw me, they both stood up quickly. "Daniel, you did not tell us you were coming today," Kendra said. Her voice sounded normal, but her eyes avoided mine. Oliver laughed. Big man likes surprise. I laughed too, but something inside me shifted. That night, I asked Kendra, "Is Oliver here often?" She shrugged. "Sometimes. He checks on us." "Is that a problem?" "No," I said quickly. "Of course not." I did not want to sound insecure. I should have listened to that small voice in my head. 2 weeks later, my driver mentioned something. We were driving back from the office when he said, "Sir, your brother comes to the house late sometimes." "Late?" I asked. "Yes, sir. Sometimes after 10. I smiled. "He probably just stops by." The driver nodded, but his face showed doubt. That night, I could not sleep. I lay in bed next to Kendra, listening to her breathe. My mind played tricks on me. I told myself I was overthinking. "Daniel," I said to myself, "you are tired. Focus on your work." But the doubt stayed. I am a tech person. When something does not add up, I look for data. That was how the cameras came in. I already had basic security cameras in the house. Lagos requires that kind of caution, but they were mostly outside. One weekend, while Kendra took the children to her sister's place, I upgraded the system. I added indoor cameras, not in the bedroom itself. I am not that kind of man. But in the hallway leading to our bedroom, and in the living room. I did not tell anyone, not even Kendra. I told myself it was for security. But deep down, I knew the truth. I wanted to know. For the first few days, nothing happened. I traveled, I checked the feeds, normal movements, staff, children, Kendra watching television. I felt relieved. Maybe I was wrong. Then came the fourth night. I was in Abuja for a product pitch. I had just finished dinner when my phone buzzed. Living room camera, motion detected. I opened it casually. Kendra was on the couch, scrolling through her phone, then another alert. Front door opened. I watched as Oliver walked in. He did not knock. He did not greet the staff. He went straight to the living room. They talked. I could not hear the sound, but their body language was relaxed. Familiar. Too familiar. After a few minutes, the living room light went off. I swallowed hard, then my phone buzzed again. Master bedroom hallway, motion detected. That was when I clicked and saw my brother standing outside my bedroom door. That was when Kendra opened the door and pulled him inside. I closed the laptop. I stood up. I paced the room like a madman. This cannot be true, I told myself. Maybe he went in to talk. Maybe it was something innocent. But my heart did not believe those lies. I sat back down and reopened the feed. The hallway was empty. The bedroom door was closed, and my phone stayed silent for a long time. I did not sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling until morning. At dawn, my phone buzzed again. Master bedroom hallway, motion detected. I opened the feed with shaking hands. The door opened. Oliver stepped out. His shirt was untucked. He paused, looked around, then walked away. A few seconds later, Kendra came out. She adjusted her hair. She smiled. That smile broke something inside me. I slammed the laptop shut. I felt sick. I felt weak. I felt angry in a way I had never felt before. My wife, my brother, in my bed, in my house. While my children slept down the hall, I flew back to Lagos that same day. I did not tell Kendra I was coming. I wanted to see their faces. I wanted to confirm what my eyes had already seen. When I arrived home, everything looked normal. Kendra hugged me. "You are back early." "Yes," I said. "I missed you." She smiled. "We missed you too." Oliver was not there. The children ran to me. Life looked perfect, and that was the worst part. That night, as I lay in bed beside my wife, I stared at the ceiling again. She slept peacefully. I did not. My phone was under my pillow, the cameras were watching, and deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning. Because I had not yet seen everything, and what the camera would reveal next would change all our lives forever. I did not confront them. Not that night, not the next day. I became quiet instead. Dangerously quiet, the kind of quiet that hides a storm inside. The morning after I returned from Abuja, Kendra moved around the house like nothing had happened. She made breakfast for the children. She asked about my meetings. She laughed at a joke on television. I watched her closely. Every smile now felt fake. Every touch felt rehearsed. When she touched my arm, my skin crawled. When she kissed my cheek, my heart burned. And yet I said nothing, because I needed the truth in full, not assumptions. Not anger-driven accusations, proof. That same morning, Oliver showed up. He walked into my house with confidence, too much confidence. "Brother," he said loudly, "welcome back. I heard you returned early." I looked at him, really looked at him. His face did not change, his eyes did not drop. He stretched out his hand to shake mine like nothing had happened. I shook it. His palm was warm, the same hand that had touched my wife. I felt a wave of anger rush through me, but I swallowed it. "Good to see you," I said calmly. Kendra walked into the living room at that moment. When she saw Oliver, her step slowed for half a second. Just half. But I noticed. She smiled quickly. "Oh, Oliver, you are here." "Yes," he said, "just checking in." Their eyes met, not for long, but long enough. I stood there, watching the two people closest to me perform a lie so well it made me question my own sanity. That day, Oliver stayed longer than usual. Too long. He played with the children, he sat in my living room, he even offered to help with dinner. At some point I excused myself and went upstairs. I locked myself in my study. I opened my laptop, and I watched. The cameras showed me everything I could not see with my eyes. When I left the living room, Kendra's shoulders relaxed. Oliver leaned closer. They spoke in low voices. She laughed. He touched her hand. She did not pull away. My stomach twisted. I wanted to storm downstairs. I wanted to shout. But I stayed, because I needed to understand how deep this went. That evening, Oliver finally left. At the door, he hugged Kendra. Not the kind of hug siblings-in-law give. It lasted too long. When he left, Kendra locked the door and leaned against it for a moment. She closed her eyes. That image stayed with me all night. Later in bed, she turned toward me. "You have been quiet," she said. "I am just tired," I replied. She placed her hand on my chest. "You work too hard." Her hand felt heavy, like guilt. I turned away. She did not push. That alone told me something was wrong. The next few days were torture. I traveled again, not because I had to, but because I wanted to see what would happen when I was gone. This time, I went to Ibadan. I booked a hotel. I carried my laptop like it was my lifeline. The first night, nothing happened. The second night, Oliver came again. Same pattern, same time, same confidence. I watched him walk into my house like he owned it. I watched my wife welcome him. I watched them sit together, whisper, laugh. Then the lights went off. Then the hallway camera alerted me. Again. Every night I was away, he came. Every night my wife opened my bedroom door for him. The room where my children were made, the room where I prayed, the room where I believed love lived. The camera did not lie. What hurt the most was not just the act. It was the planning, the routine, the comfort. They were not sneaking like people afraid of being caught. They were moving like people who had done this many times. Like it was normal, like I was the outsider. On the fourth night, I noticed something new. Oliver did not leave immediately in the morning. He stayed. He moved freely around the house. He drank tea in the kitchen. Kendra laughed with him. Then she went upstairs. He followed her. I zoomed the camera feed. The children's door was closed. My chest tightened. I prayed silently. "Please let the children be asleep, please." The hallway camera caught them again, but this time something else happened. Kendra paused at the bedroom door. She looked nervous. She shook her head. Oliver leaned in and said something. She hesitated, then she opened the door. That hesitation told me everything. This was no mistake. This was a choice. By the time I returned to Lagos again, I was no longer confused. I was angry, but I was also scared. Not of them. Of what I might do if I confronted them without a plan. I have built companies. I have handled negotiations worth millions, but nothing prepared me for this kind of betrayal. I needed control. So I created a plan. I decided to act normal. Too normal. I laughed more. I touched Kendra more. I even invited Oliver over myself. They both looked surprised, but they came. One evening I sat with Oliver in the living room while Kendra was in the kitchen. "I have been thinking," I said casually. "Maybe you should move closer. You are always around anyway." He smiled. "That would be nice." Kendra almost dropped the spoon she was holding. I pretended not to notice. Inside, I smiled for the first time in weeks, because now I knew. They were afraid. That night, after everyone slept, I did something I had never done before. I went into my bedroom quietly. I checked the camera angle. I adjusted the settings. I enabled audio. Not inside the bedroom, but in the hallway. I needed voices. I needed words. I needed the truth in sound, not just pictures. I returned to bed beside my wife. She slept peacefully again. I did not. 2 nights later, I traveled again. This time to Port Harcourt. I told Kendra it was urgent. She hugged me tightly, too tightly. "Be safe," she said. "I will," I replied. That night I waited. The alert came. Oliver arrived. They followed the same pattern. The hallway camera activated. I turned on the audio. My heart pounded so hard I thought I would faint. And then I heard my wife's voice. Clear, soft, intimate. "Be quick," she whispered. "The children could wake up." Oliver laughed quietly. "Relax. We have done this before." I covered my mouth with my hand. My vision blurred. My wife replied, "I know. I just hate lying to him." Oliver said something that made my blood turn cold. "He is never around anyway." Silence followed. Then the bedroom door closed. I stared at the screen. I could not move. I could not breathe. The betrayal was no longer just in images. It had a voice now, and it sounded like home being destroyed. But what I did not know was this. The next recording would reveal something even worse, something I was not prepared for, something that would make me question if my children were safe, and that discovery would come sooner than I expected. I did not sleep after that night. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed in Port Harcourt until morning, staring at the wall like it could explain what my life had become. My mind kept replaying her voice. I just hate lying to him, as if I was an inconvenience, as if my trust was a small problem. But nothing prepared me for what I heard next. The following night, I did not even wait for the alert. I opened the camera feed early. I watched the living room in silence, my heart already heavy. Oliver arrived again, same time, same confidence. Kendra welcomed him like someone welcoming a husband home. They sat close, too close. Then they stood and walked slowly toward the hallway. Before entering the bedroom, they stopped. This time they did not rush. They talked, and the audio picked up everything. "Kendra," Oliver said softly, "we cannot keep doing this forever." She sighed. "I know." There was a pause. Then my wife spoke words that shattered the last piece of my heart. "I really love you, Oliver," she said. "I always have." I froze. "I would do anything to have you for life. Anything." My ears rang. Oliver was quiet for a moment. "Then why did you marry him?" She laughed lightly, not nervous, not guilty. Calm. "Daniel," she said, "I married him because I wanted a comfortable life, the rich vibes, the security." He was safe. Safe. That word hit me harder than any insult. "He was never the one I wanted," she continued. "You were." My hands shook so badly I almost dropped my phone. Oliver asked, "And what about the children?" "They are innocent," she replied quickly, "but Daniel is just in the way." I felt cold all over. They went into the bedroom, but this time I did not care about that. I cared about what came after. About an hour later, the door opened again. They stepped into the hallway. They did not notice the camera. They stood close, whispering. Oliver spoke first. "If we want a future, he cannot stay." My heart stopped. Kendra did not answer immediately. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "There are ways," she said slowly, "quiet ways. Slow ways." I could not believe what I was hearing. "What do you mean?" Oliver asked. "We make it look normal," she replied. "Stress, health issues, too much work. People will say he worked himself into the ground." I covered my mouth with my hand. This was no longer about cheating. This was about ending my life. Oliver hesitated. "That sounds dangerous." She touched his arm. "I have lived with him for years. I know his routine, his food, his habits." My stomach turned. "We do it slowly," she continued. "No rush, no mistakes." Oliver asked, "And the company?" She smiled. I could hear it in her voice. "Everything will fall into place." I felt sick. The woman I shared my bed with was calmly planning my end. With my own brother. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drive back to Lagos that same night and drag them both into the open. But fear held me down. Not fear for myself. Fear for my children, Kate, Kirian. What kind of people was I living with? What kind of danger had I brought into my own home? That night I made a decision. I would not confront them yet. I would not let them know I knew. Because now it was no longer just about catching cheaters. It was about survival. The next morning, Kendra called me. "Did you sleep well?" she asked sweetly. "Yes," I lied. "I miss you," she said. "I miss you too," I replied, my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. She did not know. She had no idea that I had heard everything, that every word was saved, recorded, time-stamped, waiting. When I returned to Lagos 2 days later, I looked at my house differently. The walls felt closer. The air felt heavy. I hugged my children longer than usual. Kendra watched me with curious eyes. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she asked. "No reason," I said, but inside I was counting every move, every smile, every plate of food, every glass of water. Oliver came later that evening. He smiled at me like a brother, like nothing was wrong, like he was not planning my slow disappearance. I smiled back, because at that moment I knew one thing for sure. They thought they were in control. But they had no idea that the camera they ignored was about to turn their own plan against them. And the next thing I would discover would force me to make the hardest choice of my life. The moment that finally broke me did not come from a camera. It came from my son. It was a quiet Saturday morning in Lagos. The house looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Kendra was in the kitchen. Kate was watching cartoons. Kirian sat on the floor with his toy cars, pushing them slowly, humming to himself. I was on the couch, pretending to read messages on my phone while my mind stayed alert. Then Kirian looked up at me. "Daddy?" he asked. "Yes, my boy," I replied, smiling. He hesitated, then asked in his small, innocent voice, "Why does Uncle Oliver always kiss Mummy when you are not around?" My heart stopped. I stared at him. "What did you say?" He repeated it slowly, clearly, the way children do when they want to be understood. Uncle Oliver kisses Mummy, on the mouth, and Mummy tells him to stop laughing. The room spun. I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. Kate looked up from the television. "Kirian, don't say nonsense." "I am not lying," Kirian said. "I saw them." I forced myself to stay calm. "When did you see this?" I asked gently. Kirian shrugged. "At night, when you travel, Uncle Oliver comes. They go to your room." My hands clenched into fists. That was it. The cameras were no longer just about betrayal between adults. My children had seen it. My children were exposed to it. And worse, the people plotting my end were doing it without caring who watched. In that moment, it dawned on me. I had waited too long. I had been gathering evidence, planning calmly, watching silently. But this was no longer just about proving a truth. This was about protecting my life and my children's future. I had to act fast. That same day, I pretended everything was normal. I hugged Kirian tightly. "Thank you for telling me," I whispered. He smiled, not understanding the weight of what he had just done. I called my lawyer that afternoon, not my company lawyer, a private one. A woman who handled sensitive cases quietly. I did not explain everything on the phone. I only said, "I need protection for myself and my children, immediately." She understood. That evening, Oliver came again. I watched him closely. When he hugged Kendra, I saw it. The kiss, quick, careless, right in my house, in front of my children. Kendra laughed like it was a joke. I stood up. "Oliver," I said calmly, "walk with me." He followed me outside to the balcony. The city lights of Lagos glowed below us. For a second, I almost confronted him. Almost. But then I remembered the voices I heard on that recording, the slow plan, the quiet ways. I changed my mind. Instead, I smiled. "You know," I said, "I have been thinking of taking a longer business trip, maybe 2 weeks." His eyes lit up before he could hide it. "That's good," he said quickly. "Your work is important." I nodded. "While I'm gone, please watch over my family." He placed his hand on my shoulder. Always. That touch made my skin crawl. That night, after everyone slept, I checked the cameras again. But this time, I was not just watching. I was preparing. I backed up every file. Video, audio, dates, times. I sent copies to a secure drive only I could access. I also installed something new, a hidden backup camera, one they did not know about. If they thought they were safe before, they were wrong. The next morning, Kendra packed my bag herself. She smiled too much. 2 weeks will pass quickly, she said. Yes, I replied, very quickly. Before I left, I knelt in front of my children. Daddy loves you, I said, no matter what. Kate hugged me. Kirian held my face and said, Daddy, don't go too long. My chest tightened. I won't, I promised. As I drove away from the house, I looked back at it. The place I once called home, now a trap. They thought my absence gave them freedom. They had no idea my absence was the beginning of their exposure. Because while they planned to erase me slowly and secretly, I was about to turn their own words into the weapon that would destroy everything they thought they controlled. And what I would capture next would leave no room for denial, no escape, no mercy. But first, I had to let them believe they were winning. I left Lagos that morning with a calm face and a broken heart. But inside me, something had changed. I was no longer confused. I was no longer shocked. I was focused. I checked into a hotel in Ikoyi, not far from my house, close enough to act fast if I needed to. Far enough to let them feel safe. That first night, the alert came early. Front door, opened. Oliver walked in. I watched everything. Kendra hugged him like a wife welcoming her husband home. They did not even pretend to be careful anymore. That alone told me one thing: they believed I was already out of the picture. Later that night, the hallway camera caught them again. This time, they did not whisper. They talked freely. Oliver said, "He trusts us too much." Kendra replied, "That is why this will work." My fingers tightened around my phone. They spoke about routines, about my meals, about stress, about timing, about how people would talk. "He works too hard," Kendra said calmly. "Nobody will question it." Oliver laughed, especially when he is always traveling. I saved the recording. I backed it up again and again. At that moment, I knew something clearly. If I waited any longer, I might not get another chance. The next morning, I met my lawyer. I showed her everything. She watched in silence. When it ended, she looked at me and said one sentence: "You acted just in time." She helped me contact the right people, quietly, legally, correctly. I also called someone else, my doctor. I explained everything. He ran tests the same day. What he found made my knees weak. There were substances in my system that should not have been there, small amounts. Not enough to kill me fast, but enough to weaken me slowly, enough to make me tired, enough to make people say he worked himself into sickness. The plan was already in motion. That evening, I returned home unannounced. No call, no warning. I walked in just as Oliver was leaving the bedroom hallway. Our eyes met. For the first time, he froze. Kendra stepped out behind him. She stopped when she saw me. "Daniel," she said softly. I raised my hand. "Sit," I said. My voice was calm, too calm. They both sat. The children were asleep. The house was quiet. I placed my phone on the table and pressed play. The room filled with their own voices, clear, sharp, unforgiving. Kendra's face drained of color. Oliver stood up. "Brother, let me explain." I looked at him. "Sit down." He sat. I played another clip, then another, then the one where she said she married me for comfort, for rich vibes, for safety. Kendra started crying, not the kind of cry from regret, the kind of cry from being caught. "I loved you once," she said weakly. I nodded. "I know. That is why this hurts." Then I said the words they never expected. "The police are on their way." Oliver jumped up. Kendra screamed. I did not move, because everything was already done. By morning, the house was quiet again, but this time it was a different kind of quiet. My children were safe. That was all that mattered. As the sun rose over Lagos, I stood by the window alone. I thought about trust, about family, about how betrayal does not always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from the people who sleep under your roof. I took a deep breath. This chapter of my life was over. But the journey ahead, the healing, the rebuilding, the truth the world would soon hear, that is a story for another day. And when I am ready, I will tell it. Kindly let us know your view about this story, the city you're watching from, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories. Do have a blessed year ahead.